live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Monday, June 20th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. Super simple to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, baseball, you could be the number of hits, the number of strikeouts. In basketball, which is now over for the year, it was things like the number of points or the number of rebounds. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. And if you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason I'm excited about the over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where I could join in my buddy's contest and we could all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I could see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing, and we could all copy what the guy who won 3 days in a row in our group is playing. It's insanely fun when everybody is riding it out together. So stop what you're doing and download Sleeper now to play in their new over-under game. Have some fun with your friends and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join the listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTN bets, and they will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, go down to the description of this podcast and you'll see it there, sleeper.com/FTN bets, and you'll be eligible for that 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for the details. With the NBA season winding down last week, today we're going to start something new here on the Betcast, and we're going to take a look at the betting numbers for every NFL team leading up to the NFL season. And the first one we're going to start with here is last year's AFC East divisional winning Buffalo Bills. Buffalo was 11-6 last season before losing 42-36 to Kansas City to get knocked out of the playoffs. This year, if you look around the league, this is a team that returned almost everybody on their offense. The one guy who they kind of got rid of was Manny Sanders, but they replaced him with Jamison Crowder. So I don't really think that's much of a difference between those two guys. If anything, it's probably a wash. Crowder is going to be the guy who steps in and plays that third wide receiver role, that slot wide receiver role that Manny Sanders played a lot last year for this team. The only other real addition they made to the offense is rookie James Cook, rookie running back who they drafted this year. Running back was a problem for them last year. Obviously, Devin Singletary took a little bit of a step forward and kind of took the reins of that role. Him and Zach Moss had gone back and forth the year before. They tried to use them, in different situations, let Moss be more of the banger, let, Devin Singletary be more of the guy that's running the scat back outside stuff and, a little more of the receiving stuff. And that's what they also think James Cook can do. They think James Cook can be their receiving back this year at a minimum, if not even somebody who can push Devin Singletary for, the carries that they're going to have during the regular season. So if anything, you could say that they did address some of the needs that this team has here a little bit. They are a little bit better offensively on paper than they were last year. So last year, like I said, they had 11 wins during the regular season. Another tough schedule for them as a division winner coming back. They're going to face a lot of those other division winners throughout the season here. Let's see. 11.5 is the number that is the number for the props that a lot of the books have out there. You could play an over on that 11.5 wins on FanDuel at -115. The same number is -134 to -140 on a lot of the other books. Sugar House, Bet Rivers, Unibet, PointsBet, DraftKings all have it at that -134 to -140 number. So getting it at -115 on FanDuel, it's about 25 basis points better, 25 basis points better than most of the other places in the market have it. At -115 for over 11.5 wins, what they're really saying is that's an implied probability of about 53.5% that Buffalo will get at least 12 wins here on the season. Probably a little high for my liking. I like to look at the numbers that Jeff Ratcliffe did a really good series right when the schedules came out with projected win totals for every team. And you can check that out over on FTN Bets. I'll post a link in the description down low so you guys can go take a look at that. Jeff has them projected for 11.6 wins, so slightly over the 11.5, but also not over by enough for me to get really confident in playing this number at a 53.5% implied probability or a minus 115 price on FanDuel. If you're going to play it at all, the minus 115 price on FanDuel is about the only place where I could tell you it makes sense to play this, because I definitely don't want to lay minus 134 to minus 140 to get this same bet in there. There's a couple other interesting things here with Buffalo I wanted to mention as we're going through all the, sports betting picks, all the sports betting numbers for Buffalo for the season here. Buffalo is actually the chalkiest team. They are the shortest price team to have the most wins in the regular season this year. DraftKings has them as the team with the most wins in the regular season at plus 450. They are the lowest price on the board to be the team that finishes with the most wins in the regular season. So this is definitely a team that a lot of people are expecting a lot of big things to come out of this year. And again, I don't think it's crazy to look at them as, the team that could win the most games here at plus 450. One of the reasons why I don't think it's crazy to look at them is they have an 82% implied probability of making the playoffs. And how do I get that number? Well, we get that number based off of the number that's out there in the market. So there are numbers out there in the market that have them at like minus 500, minus 550 even. So that's more like an 85, 86% implied probability. That's just honestly, those are just, eye-popping kind of numbers. You're not going to see that with many, if any, other teams in the league this year. The lowest price you can get for the Buffalo Bills to even make the playoffs this year is minus 455 on Unibet, Sugar House, and Bet Rivers right now. Minus 455 is an 82% implied probability, which means that the books and the bettors are giving the Buffalo Bills an 80% chance to make the playoffs this year. 82% chance, really. And that is the lowest number. Like I said, there are some numbers out there that have that more at an implied probability of like 86 to 88% out there. This is one of the best teams in football. This should continue to be one of the best teams in football. As long as Josh Allen can stay healthy here, this team was able to put up big numbers last year against, bad defenses, and even big numbers against some decent defenses when they had to play them. And this is a team that's been able to score even when they do go up against some of those elite defenses in the league. They can score in many ways. Their passing game is very good. Josh Allen can run with his legs. They got some running backs in there that they mix in. Whenever you have a running quarterback, it always makes life a little bit easier for those running backs there. So I get it and I understand it. And we haven't even talked about their defense, which is one of the best defenses in the league, and welcoming back arguably their best player in Tre'Davious White, who missed most of the end of last season with an injury there. So on paper, this Buffalo Bills team, they are going to be a juggernaut this year. They're going to be one of the top teams in the NFL. If guys can stay healthy, I don't think it's crazy. And even if guys do get hurt, as long as it's not Josh Allen, there's still a very good chance that this team's going to make the playoffs. Is it an 80% chance? Is that something I really want to put money on? Not really. I think minus 455 is it's just too low a number. There's not enough upside to play it there. But with that being said, you can't really argue that why this team is, one of the top teams in the league. They are one of the shortest prices to win both the AFC and the Super Bowl, not to mention to win their division. They're minus money to win the division. They are plus 400 over on PointsBet to win the AFC. That means at plus 400, PointsBet is giving the Buffalo Bills a 20% chance to be the AFC champion, which is a very big number right here. Minus 350 to plus 350 to plus 300 is the number that the other books have it at. Even at plus 300, you're still looking at them having, probably like a 1 in 4 chance, I guess, to win it all. So maybe 25% chance or so to win it. This is just a very, very good team here. This is a team that, like I said, is going to be one of the tops in the league right now. To win the AFC at plus 400, oh man, I don't know. It's not a horrible number, but I think it is a little low. It's not really something that I'd be looking to put a lot of money down on, but I don't think it's a crazy number. I don't think it's anything that is, real far out there where, you could say, oh man, that's definitely going to be adding value to some of the other teams. Plus 400 PointsBet, 20% chance. Best number to play the Buffalo Bills to win the AFC. The next number we're going to talk about is going to be their Super Bowl number here this year. The best number you can find on them to win the Super Bowl is plus 700. Plus 700 gives them a 12.5% chance. They're plus 600 to plus 650 on all the other books out there. More like a 15 or 16% chance to win the Super Bowl, which again just goes to show you how good this Buffalo team is and how well respected they are out there by both the sports books and the bettors. Plus 700 makes them one of the, probably like 4 or 5 handful of favorite teams in order to make it all the way this year. And again, with the way that they played last year, you really can't argue with that. This is a very good football team who is going to be making a lot of noise this year. Plus 700 is the best number you can get. You can get that number over on Caesars. So now let's talk about some of the individuals on this team, some of the individual players and some of the numbers for those individual players. And any discussion that we have about that is going to have to start with Josh Allen. So Josh Allen last year, 4,407 yards passing, 36 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, which is a little bit high. But again, 36 touchdowns, 4,407 yards. And the other thing we got to talk about here with Josh Allen can use his legs as well. Josh Allen last year ran for 763 yards and 6 touchdowns on top of it. So he counted for over 5,000 yards between passing and rushing, counted for over 40 touchdowns when you take the passing touchdowns and the rushing touchdowns and put them together. That's a guy that has a chance to win an MVP this year. And the MVP number is the number we're going to talk about. So before we get into it, though, here's what I really want to talk about here. A couple years ago, you had a running quarterback win the MVP with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson ran for over 1,000 yards this year. I don't know if Josh Allen can rush for over 1,000 yards. I don't know if they want Josh Allen rushing for over 1,000 yards. But you really got to take that into consideration, is that if he's going to win an MVP, he's going to have to do something outstanding. There's going to be a couple quarterbacks this year. Last year, we had Tom Brady and Justin Herbert throw for over 5,000 yards. So if he's not going to throw for over 5,000 yards because he's running and the way that they do things on that offense, he's going to have something else that makes him the MVP. And it's either going to be a lot of touchdowns scored with his legs, or he's going to have to bump that up a little bit. I know 763 yards is a massive amount of rushing yards for a quarterback. Massive amount of rushing yards for a quarterback. But it might not be enough to get him that MVP trophy. He's going to have to throw for probably 4,000 and rush for close to 1,000, to be in this conversation. And again, last year, 4,400 yards passing, 763 yards rushing, and he didn't win the MVP award last year. So this is definitely something that we have to kind of keep an eye on. You're probably going to need to see Buffalo get, I don't know, maybe 13 wins or so for him to be in the conversation here. He's probably going to have to get at least 850 to 1,000 yards rushing. He's going to have to throw for 4,000 to 5,000 yards. He's going to have to account for probably 50 total touchdowns. It's asking quite a bit. Josh Allen had an absolutely amazing season last year, and the numbers that he had last year probably still weren't enough for me to think he could win an MVP. So, yes, I do think he can take a step forward. Yes, I do think he'll need to take a step forward if he's going to win the MVP. So we're going to have to see how all that works out. So looking at the betting markets right now, if you want to play Josh Allen MVP, it's plus 700 on all the major books right now. You can get plus 700 Josh Allen MVP on DraftKings, on FanDuel, on BetMGM, and on Caesars. This is one that I don't think is a horrible bet. I think this is a maybe. I think this is one that you want to put into your maybe I'm willing to bet on this here. Again, I would rather play. You got to look at it this way, right? We're not getting very good odds to play them to win their division. We're not getting very good odds to play them to make the playoffs. Everybody kind of expects this team to have double-digit wins, be a playoff team, win the AFC East, and go on and make some noise and compete for the AFC title at plus 400, which is a low number, and the Super Bowl at plus 700, another somewhat low number overall. If those things are going to happen, it's probably going to happen based on Josh Allen's arm and a really good defense that they have out there. So, I shouldn't even say Josh Allen's arm. Josh Allen's combination of his arm and his legs is probably what's going to make it happen here. So I don't think that plus 700 for MVP is a crazy bet. That's one that I'd put a little star next to as one of the better bets on this Buffalo Bills team going into the 2022 season. Josh Allen is plus 1,200 to be the guy who has the most passing yards in the NFL. This one I would stay away from because, again, he does use his legs a little more, and guys that are using their legs a little more are going to throw for less yardage than some of these guys that just drop back and pass. Again, Justin Herbert, over 5,000 last year. Tom Brady, 5,300. You got guys like Aaron Rodgers, if they decide to throw the ball a little more, which maybe they won't because they lost their best receiver, but you never know. Patrick Mahomes lost a bunch of his receivers, but again, is another guy that's capable of slinging it around and throwing for 5,000 yards as well. That's why I'm just looking around at the competition that Josh Allen would have for most passing yards. I know it's plus 1,200. It's not like It's not a horrible number. I think it's fine. It's at plus 1,200. You're looking at like a 7 or 8% chance that he does this, and maybe he could. But I think in order for him to do it, it would require him to step up and have a better season than he has had. And also, I think it would be something that would require some of these other guys to maybe falter a little, either because they got new receivers that they're working in, or maybe some injuries pop up. To me, there's just too many moving parts for me to think that Josh Allen could be the guy who leads the league in passing yards here. So plus 1,200 is the number. You can get that. I think that was over on MGM, but I'm going to be perfectly honest. That is not one that I want to put money behind. So I am not looking to play Josh Allen most passing yards in the league this year. He does have a passing yards total that is interesting to me, though. 4,275 and a half yards in the last two seasons. In, let's see, 2021, he threw for 4,407 yards, as we mentioned. 2020, he threw for 4,544 yards. And remember, that was only in 16 games, not 17 games. We got an added game this year, added game last year as well. But that's what makes me a little nervous. I mean, at 4,275 yards, you would have to throw for 251 yards a game. Last year, he threw for 4,407 in 17 games. So let's say he didn't play in one of those games. Now you're down to like 4,100 yards there. So really what you're saying here is that you want Josh Allen to stay healthy. Because if Josh Allen stays healthy, plays all 17 games this season, there is a good chance that he's going to go over this number. This 4,275 yard passing number, you can get that right now on FanDuel at standard minus 110 juice if you want to play the over. And I do think, barring an injury, the over is the side of that we want to be on. So that's actually one of my favorite plays here. I like Josh Allen plus 700 for MVP. I also like Josh Allen to go over 4,275 and a half passing yards here. Minus 110 on FanDuel. Best place you can get that number. So get over there and play it now. Let's see. What other things can we look at here for, some of the sports betting stuff for the Buffalo Bills? Let's go to Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs is a guy that we can look at here. Diggs had 1,225 yards last year, finished 8th overall in the NFL for receiving yards. There were three guys that had over 1,500 yards last year. That was, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, and then Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp leading the league last year, 1,947 yards. He's the one who had the most receiving yards in the league. That was an amazing season by Cooper Kupp. Can he repeat that? I got to be honest, guys. I mean, it was one of the better seasons in NFL history, so I wouldn't really be looking for him to repeat it or get over 2,000 yards and improve on it here this year. But Cooper Kupp still should have a big year. And you still have guys like Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams on a new team. We don't know how that's going to go. A couple of the other guys that were up there in the top, like Tyreek Hill, is on a new team as well. And, there's a couple other guys who we don't know exactly how much work they're going to get this year. Stefan Diggs should be a guy who finishes top 10 in receiving yards. And if that was a bet that we could take somewhere around like even money or minus 120, I don't think it would be a bad bet to take. But do I think he could be the guy that leads the league overall in receiving yards? I don't think that that's going to happen. Like I said, he has a running quarterback, so that's going to take away some of those, opportunities for him right there. I mean, there are only so many plays that a team can run. If you have a guy like Tom Brady or Matthew Stafford, who just, these guys are basically statues back there that don't ever run the ball. Those guys are going to throw a little more. And if you're the number one receiver on that team, you're going to get more of the, more of the volume. That's just the way it is. Buffalo does have some other good options. Dawson Knox is not a bad tight end. Jamison Crowder is a decent guy out of the slot there. Gabriel Davis really, really came on strong late last year. So, I mean, there are other weapons that this team is going to use. It's not that they're just going to sit there and feed Stefan Diggs all day long and let Diggs get his 2,000 yards. Now, again, I'm not saying this isn't a knock on Stefan Diggs. I'm not saying that he's not a good wide receiver. I don't think he's a good player or anything like that. He's plus 1,800 on Caesars for the most receiving yards, 1,400 to 1,600 on the other books out there. So plus 1,800 is a good number. It's a really good number. It's something I'd be interested in. The problem is I just don't think that he can get there. So, I just don't see this as being something that I really want to put any money on there. So, no, I am not going to be taking Stefan Diggs for most receiving yards this year, although he is the best option to lead his team in receiving yards, which is not something that we could bet on or get good odds on if we wanted to do it. I think last year, his 1,225 receiving yards were almost double the guys that were directly behind him. I think I want to say Manny Sanders was second on the team with like 600 something receiving yards. So yes, Stefan Diggs, clear number one wide receiver in Buffalo. But for me, not really a guy that I want to bet on to be the overall most yardage gained of any wide receiver with receiving yards in 2022. Offensive player of the year number is the one that I'd rather take a shot on if you're going to take a shot on with Stefan Diggs. You're getting that at plus 5,000 odds or 50 to 1, which means that he has a 2% chance of being the offensive player of the year. Now, again, 1,225 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's a very good season. You know, if he has a little bit of a better season here where he gets, I don't know, maybe 1,500 and maybe he gets 13 or 14 touchdowns, has a couple big games there, this could be a guy that's definitely in the offensive player of the year discussion, especially if Buffalo does go out there and win 13, 14 games, win the AFC, like, you know, be the number one seed. So if you're going to take a shot on Stefan Diggs for anything here, the number that I like the most for him is offensive player of the year at plus 5,000. It's plus 4,000 to plus 4,500 elsewhere. And remember, you can get over to ftnbets.com, click on the prop shop, type in Stefan Diggs' name, and you'll find the best prices being offered at all the books out there for him to be the offensive player of the year. I don't remember off the top of my head. I didn't write it down. I want to say that this was the number that I took at Caesars, but like I said, definitely get over there and check it out. Plus 5,000 was the best number I saw out there. There's a lot of plus 4,000 and plus 4,500, so 40, 45 to ones on them. But I like him at plus 5,000. That's the best number we could play. Offensive player of the year, Stefan Diggs. Let's see some other betting things I want to throw out there in the betting preview here for the Buffalo Bills. Dawson Knox first touchdowns. Last year, we cashed this a couple times. We were getting like 12 to 16 to 1 on Dawson Knox to score first touchdown. By the end of the season, I think it got down somewhere in the 8 to 12 range. And the 8 to 10 range is probably where it belongs. He will be the guy that scores the first touchdown for them a couple times because they don't really have a good short yardage game. Do you think James Cook can finish that? James Cook is not a big bruising back. I don't really see James Cook being the guy who they go to down at the goal line there. Devin Singletary was not that guy either. That's why we saw a lot of Josh Allen rushing touchdowns. He had 6 of them on the season. Josh Allen rushing touchdowns, definitely something that we should be interested in this year. We can get those at plus 300 or more, like we were getting them last year at plus 4, plus 500 sometimes. Those are definitely going to be things that we want to look at here throughout the season as well. But Dawson Knox first touchdowns, if we're getting them at the 10 to 1 or higher range, that's going to be something that we're going to make a lot of bets on this year as well. There were a couple games last year where Dawson Knox did have the first touchdown, a couple other ones that we bet on him. Look, I know a lot of guys in the FTN bets chat will remember this. He dropped a couple passes when he should have had some first touchdowns as well. So even though this was a profitable play last year to bet him first touchdown, you probably could have even made more money on it if it happened that often. I wouldn't be shocked to see him drop down into like that 8, 9, 10 range for a first touchdown. But if he stays up in that 12 to 15 range, that plus 1,200, plus 1,500, Dawson Knox first touchdowns is definitely going to be something I'm looking at this year, as well as those Josh Allen rushing touchdowns, if we can get them at like plus 350, plus 400. Let's see not the last thing, but the next thing I wanted to mention is Tre'davious White. Tre'davious White, you know, again, this guy was the lockdown corner, the most feared corner in the league, arguably a couple years ago. He got hurt last year. And again, nothing wrong with him. He should come back perfectly fine here. All indication is that he's going to be back to, you know, his normal self. Comeback player of the year for Tre'davious White. Now, it's a tough thing for a defensive player to win. It does usually go to an offensive player, but I think Tre'davious White could be one of those guys that could win this. And I think there's a really good number here. I think we have some value on that number. And let me tell you why I think there's value on that number. Right now, FanDuel has Tre'davious White as comeback player of the year at 50 to 1, plus 5,000. 50 to 1 is what you're getting on him there. PointsBet, Unibet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers has the same thing at 33 to 1 or plus 3,300. DraftKings has this at 25 to 1 at plus 2,500. So you're getting double the payout on FanDuel right now that you are on DraftKings for this exact same thing with Tre'davious White to be the comeback player of the year. 50 to 1, I think, is tremendous value. Like I said, most of the books out there have this at 33 to 1. DraftKings has it at 25 to 1. And you're able to get this at 50 to 1 on FanDuel right now. So go over to FanDuel right now. Even if you just put like a $10 bet on this, pays off $500. So if you got like a $10 voucher sitting around from, I don't know, some free bet that you made that they gave you a free $10 bet or something, putting it on Tre'davious White to be the comeback player of the year, the guy who was basically the number one lockdown corner in football. Again, got hurt early last year. They played the entire season without him. Still finished 11-6. We're still a very good team. He is going to make this defense even better because he can lock down one entire side of the field, assuming that he's healthy and back to what he was pre-injury here. 50-1, I think, is a really, really good value. So get over and play that Tre'davious White 50-1 on FanDuel, one of the best ones out there. And again, if you haven't already, if you haven't signed up for FanDuel, go to ftnbets.com/sportsbooks, and you can see all of the offers for all of the partners that we work with out there, all of our sportsbook partners. I think the FanDuel offer right now is $1,000 risk-free bet. Would I put the $1,000 risk-free on Tre'davious White, Defensive Player of the Year? Probably not going to do that. But like I said, if you do get over there, you can make a bet or two. You got a couple bucks in your account. I do think it's worth dropping a little something on Tre'davious White to be comeback player of the year. He's also up for defensive player of the year. I don't know if I want to go there. That I think tends to go a little more to like an offensive lineman that's going to get a bunch of sacks or a guy that has a bunch of interceptions. And as we know, when Tre'davious White is, back to his full self and normal, teams don't even throw the ball to his side of the field. So I don't know if he's going to have the stats to kind of back up a defensive player of the year, but I do like the idea of him as comeback player of the year. And then the last number we're going to talk about here is going to be rookie running back James Cook. James Cook is 16-1 plus 1,600 to be the rookie of the year this year in the NFL. I don't really think it's a great number here. It's as low as plus 1,300 over on PointsBet, a couple plus 14s and plus 15s in the market. Best price is MGM with that plus 1,600 here. But, listen, I don't know how they're going to wind up using this kid this year. I heard maybe he's going to return some punts or kicks. I heard maybe they're going to use him a little bit as like a third down swing back here. Maybe he takes a couple carries from a guy like Devin Singletary. But at the end of the day, worst case scenario, best case scenario, I think it's a 50-50 split. Worst case scenario, I think he's the backup, which is what I think he's going to be. I think he's, going to be maybe the third down guy, maybe a little bit of a change of pace guy. I just don't think he's going to get enough volume to be, rookie of the year or even to be like, in that conversation there. So again, not the greatest quarterback class that was out there this year. So you don't normally have to look at, quarterback being the offensive rookie of the year this year. Maybe it's a wide receiver, maybe it's a running back, but even if it is a running back, James Cook would probably be at best third on my list of guys that I would be interested in playing here as the, best rookie running back this year. And even then, that would be at best. Most likely, he's probably more in like that 5, 6, 7, 8 range. And again, we could argue over all that, and we'll have plenty of time to do that. Right now, I'm just kind of looking at the numbers that the sportsbook are offering and trying to see if there's any value. So for Buffalo, just to recap here, 11.5 wins is the win total. FanDuel minus 115 is a really good place to play that number. It is 20 to 25 basis points better than where you're going to find it anywhere else out there in the market. Plus 400 on PointsBet for them to win the AFC. Again, 300 to 350, the number out there in the market for everything else. Plus 700, their Super Bowl odds. 600 to 650, the number out there. Again, not really in love with the Super Bowl odds. The AFC, maybe a little bit there. Minus 455 to make the playoffs. Can't play that number at all. It's just there's not enough money to be won there. Josh Allen MVP plus 700. I like that. Josh Allen over 4,275 yards passing. Like that a little bit as well. You can get that on FanDuel at minus 110. The MVP number, DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, Caesars, all have that number out there. Stefan Diggs, not really looking to play any of those numbers. Keep in mind, Dawson Knox first touchdowns and Josh Allen rushing touchdowns. The fact that they didn't run the ball all that much to try to score when they got in the red zone means that those two things will probably still be pretty good bets going into next season. Comeback player of the year, Tre'davious White, 50-1, like that a lot. And then James Cook, not taking him, even at 1,600 to be the rookie of the year. And that is going to wrap it up for our sports betting preview of the Buffalo Bills for the 2022 season. We're going to do one of these each day going forward. So definitely make sure you check back. If your favorite team hasn't come up yet, let me know some of the things you want me to take a look at for your favorite teams. Drop some things in the comment here or reach out to me over on Twitter at BennyR11 or over at FTNBets. And for all of you guys out there that are starting to get into this fantasy football mode, remember, you could use promo code Benny at FTNBets FTN Fantasy or FTN Daily to save 20% off on any package. You get a monthly package over there. It's the cheapest entry point that we have. Use promo code Benny. You save 20% on top of that. And then you can get in the game as well. You get all the articles, everything else over there. Definitely take a look at the packages. Make sure you're in where you want to be. If you're playing on DraftKings and FanDuel or even a site like Sleeper over here, the daily package is probably best for you. If you're going to be doing a bunch of drafts this year, fantasy-wise, you probably want to get into the FTN Fantasy package. This way you get all the season-long drafting stats from guys like Jeff Ratcliffe and Vlad Sedler and, the whole team that we have over there. And then again, if you're looking to do it on the betting side, you could always hop over to FTN Bets and get in there. Not only do you get all of the NFL action that's going to be coming up and all of the NFL futures and everything, but you're also going to get all the NBA. Well, the NBA is done now, but you'll get all the MLB action. You'll get all the MMA action, the tennis action, whatever's going on in the betting world. We got you covered over there. Charts, drafts, analysis, everything that you're looking for. So remember, get over to FTN Bets, FTN Fantasy, and FTN Daily. Use that promo code Benny, save 20% off. And that is going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Bets cast here on FTN Bets. Good luck, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.